Okay, let's see what happens here in Axis Empires. We've hit the beginning of the summer, May, June. Japanese picked diplomatic overtures. They actually got a command failure out of this. Their conditional events, they got an extra strength point. They've managed to ship some of their troops out here. They're looking to try to position themselves. They fought another naval battle, if they haven't fought one before, putting both themselves and the Brits in the naval warfare delay box. They basically have to get very lucky to be able to manage an invasion. But they're playing it out that way and looking at, I can't go to war with the US. It's got to be Russia. And going to war with Russia doesn't make sense. Well, it's not happening in Europe. And in Europe, we had support nationalists. Politically, that caused Italy to leave its neutral status. Real question there, Italy, Sweden, which one did I want? Sweden's got a big payoff right next to it with between Oslo and also the captured territory now that the Allies have there. However, Italy brings us into a playing position that with the combination of, say, the Vichy French down here, may be very easy to break out of the Mediterranean, especially with forces coming this way from Turkey. So I'm looking at making the Mediterranean into an Axis lake, and then driving, and that shouldn't be hard at all, and then maybe being able to have enough force to set myself up to take Britain out. Who knows what's going to happen, though. And, oh yeah, with the Civil War, it's down to one space. It's only the stronghold in Madrid. So there's a good chance that that might be over. All right, and that makes Spain an interesting possibility as well, doesn't it? Let's take a look at what the rest of the players are going to do with their actions. Okay, well, the Russian, let's go to the Allies first. U.S. challenges Japan. That didn't really do anything. It's got a possibility of some diplomacy happening. And over here on the west, supporting Republicans, well, they got the Basques to join them now. And once again, they're not in danger of losing the Civil War right away. For the Russians, not a lot happening. Limited war production, troops come in. They've got a really, really powerful force here. But they can't do anything with it because of the pact. They can't break the Nazi-Soviet pact. There's got to be a way that they can violate that. And I've got to look at it and see, maybe there's total war cards or something if Operation Sea Lion goes into effect where they can break in. But as it stands right now in the limited war, they can't touch it. They're stuck in the pact situation. Here's the big action for the turn, though. Over here in the delay box, and especially the naval warfare box. But we've got the Germans won the Battle of Britain. They've got two air forces coming in, British here, and then worst of all, the surface fleet way out there. That's a 6 on that. Bad rolls for the Brits across the board. What do they have left? They have one CV fleet that can counteract 2 Air Force placements. The Germans can make a crossing. Not uncontested, but they can make the attack into Britain. We're going to see what that's going to mean. But they've won the Battle of Britain, as it were. Now this has to go back. And I forgot to move a couple of other pieces. All right, but yeah, that's going to be a serious issue that I wasn't counting on. All right, that's going to push the turn forward, and we'll see how the war for England works. And we see the Germans have indeed managed to push forward into Britain. It's possible the British might be able to throw them off, but with that Air Force there, it's going to be tough. That's a really dangerous position. The only thing on Britain's behalf that's kind of helping them is the fact that the German army is all positioned to face the Russians. And here's the problem. I can't shift it real fast. It's hard to move things quickly. And if I do, very soon the Germans are running out of cards here. their deck has very few options that aren't going to either start a war or cause other problems. And I'm just assuming that the war with Russia will follow Sea Lion. So if that's what I'm forced to take, then I'll be fighting a defensive war against Russia, I assume. And I want to have that army in place and ready to fight in that case. Continuing down into Iraq, I'm probably cheating here because this road here going through Syria. Now, if I was really clever and careful and that kind of player, I would have had to attack Syria before I went into Iraq. Probably about an equivalent situation, but it's going to give time for the British units to get their way up into Iraq. I'll just say it's good enough, you know, pretend it's government work or something. All right. Onward to the Allies here. And the Allies kind of countermarch or countersail, replacing some of their forces. They don't want to make a counterattack here, but they do want to get as much as possible in defense of London. Their odds of a counterattack were almost terrible, really. They've got an interesting option here they might want to have considered, which is to get out of Oslo and to move that back. They're kind of holding off on that and leaving the Brits there in defense. They don't think the Germans have an easy shot at taking over Britain here. We can see they've brought some of their forces into Iraq, and they're holding up a defense there. Over here, some of the Australians have moved to Rabaul, making that almost much more difficult, probably almost impossible to take for the Japanese with what little power they have navally. And I think we're seeing the signs that things are going to break open real soon. Just, among other things, the cards, running out of cards. All right, well, let's push it into the end of the summer. The delay box rolls did not go well for the Allies here. Well, actually, they didn't go well for the Japanese here. Their surface fleet got knocked out. They're in a lot of trouble. No chance of expanding into the British territories now. And not really much chance of defending against the Americans either. Now over here, we see the British carrier fleet got knocked into the next year deep, and well, we're seeing some desert storms, which are going to be a bit of a problem for the Iraq campaign, I guess. All right, well, let's see what happens here. And after the Japanese victories and the obviousness that they're not going to be able to finish Britain's holdings off with things like Rabaul, well, they're stuck realizing the only way they're going to go further is to go into Russia. Let me just get a count on them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like they're at 10, which should actually put them up to 3 victory points, which is a pretty good position. I have to look at the way the rules kind of interact with those victory points. And now over on the European side, well, the Germans wiped out some Canadians that they could. Maybe not a good deal, because they're having to use their air forces here to continually attack. This is very painful. They set themselves up in Iraq, but they don't want to go forward. They don't have enough of their troops forward. They're trying to push their stuff over towards England, because that's where the war's happening now. The result in Spain was a non passant, and they ended up losing some Bulgarian volunteers in Spain. All right, on to the Allies. Here in Europe, not a lot's happened. The Brits have gathered all their forces to defend London. Stuff in Baghdad, similarly, not a lot happening. Over here, well, here the biggie happened. U.S. challenges Japan, caused a successful challenge, allowed the U.S. to enter the war. Now, this is not total war yet. It's not total war until the Japanese escalated. However, the U.S. sent their fleet in and grabbed Truk, which was essentially undefended. And that puts them in a really powerful position to move against the Japanese up here. Of course, they need to use convoys in a way that they don't really have the same capacity, say, up here, where they have close ones that they can utilize. Here it's not so good, but it gives them two to the Japanese islands themselves. Here they're already one into their territory. However, they've got supply they can pull from this side, and that should help a good deal. So this is really a dangerous situation for Japan here. All right, well, that's going to drop their points down to 9, which will still be in the rising sun 3 points. So I've got to figure out what happens there. The other thing that happened, well, there was some partisans from last turn that I got to place, and now we've got Yunnan showing up again and just beginning to cause disruption in the situation over there. I guess I roll things and move them forward. Well, skimming the rules and following my usual understanding of games with piles and piles of cards on them, if I can't find something in the rules, I assume it'll show up in the cards. And that's what I'm going to do with those victory point modifiers. I'm assuming there's a card that I'll pull out when I go to Total War, which has to be pretty soon, that will convince me, that will show me how to get, let me see what it is in this case. It's a Japanese mandate or whatever, which kind of will set the victory point tone. Right now, that sets it at 3. That means the Allies have to push it to 4 to get positive points off the map. They'll have 4 years to do so, though, and, well, 4 is a lot. That's negative 13, taking back not only what they have, but most of what Japan probably starts with. I don't think that's going to be too hard, though. Japan doesn't look like it has any defenses other than its land forces in Asia. There's some serious points in Asia, but, well, we'll see how it all works out. All right, I'm going to load this one up and then start a new one for the autumn.